So our housekeeping tips, the other one is, oh yeah, the microphone and video will be turned off during the webinar, but you can post questions in the question and answer box in the chat box. And at the end, we'll have a little short time for Veljko to answer some questions. So I first met Veljko when he joined our Gaia Education Training of Trainers here at Findhorn a few years ago. And I was really struck by his holistic approach to design, because he had this really artistic eye and the precision of an architect, as well as this deep passion for working for society and for social change. So it was a really interesting combination for me. He's an award-winning eco-architect, Ecovillage designer for holistic sustainability, a facilitator of participatory learning. And he weaves all these diverse skills into the projects and activities that he's doing in Croatia and also in Europe and beyond. He's working on many projects, a lot with youth and young people in the schools. And he works closely with his wife, Anna. They're a team, and they sort of run their projects together a lot of the time. And it's interesting, this bit, that their work's about people rather than objects. And they say they like to translate people into spaces. And when I read that, I felt really moved by that. And I had to sort of think about it. But translating people into spaces is part of the approach of Val and Anna. So without any more, I think I'd like to welcome Val today. And I'll see you at the end, and we can have a time for a few questions. So welcome, Val.
Thank you so much, Jane. Very kind words from you. I'm so happy and I'm so honored to have been invited to do this webinar by Gaia Education. And also I'm really happy to see so many participants here tonight, and actually so many faces or names that I know, and very nice and kind people here. And that includes, I'm sure, those whom I don't know, or at least not yet, but perhaps this webinar will beget some new connections and new opportunities for everyone here to cooperate, collaborate, to create some new synergies. Some people here know me as Val, because that is how I went by during my training of trainers in 2017. So it's either Val or Veljko, anything you want to call me. I'm really happy to be here, because it's really a true fact that the transformative experience that I had and the momentum that was created during my education with Gaia continued in my life. And Gaia Education has been really a turning point for me in realizing what I can do to benefit the quality of my life and the quality of life of other people and the planet. So I've been very grateful that I've been able to keep passing that on to diverse groups of people, as Jane said, and in different countries. And one of the most exciting ways for me of doing that has been working with teachers and transforming the educational system. I'm a part of such a project in Croatia, and that is what I want to talk to you about today. So I'm going to share my screen to show you a few slides, so it's not my face all the time. Okay. So here it is. How do you include sustainable development in the educational system of your country in a participatory and transformational way? Now, I've talked about this project many times, and every time I do, I'm actually even more excited about it, and sometimes I wonder how that's even possible. But it all goes back to the training of trainers I mentioned in Scotland 2017, when we were talking about future intentions. It was a really good training and fantastic facilitation by Jane, who is here, and also by Debs Benham and by May East. And I remember telling May East this: May, everything I've learned here and everything I learned in GEDS and EDE, I really want to pass it on to teachers in schools. I want to shake them up. They're in a perfect position to spread this further, you know, before students get stuck in habitual ways of thinking and behaving. but how do I reach the teachers? And May said, well, just contact your Ministry of Education and propose a series of workshops. Now, you have to know that I had no connections whatsoever in the educational sector. I was primarily an architect, and that's where I practiced sustainability and where I practiced participatory design and integrated design. But I'd always been an education enthusiast. Things move in my life when I want to learn something. And I experienced 2 primary schools, 2 high schools, 2 universities in Croatia, Norway, and the US, and several courses in other countries. And among those, I experienced absolutely horrible educational institutions and ways of teaching, and I experienced the best. So I had the desire, and I still have it, to contribute to the good practices, because I saw the consequences on students. Now, a year before the training of trainers, I co-facilitated a United World College short course on rethinking identities. That was for European high school students, and it took place in Finland. So, it felt easier for me to contact the Finnish Ministry of Education than the Croatian one. And you have to understand, Croatia is a very bureaucratic country. You don't just call a mayor or a minister, there is a hierarchy. But I was on a quest, practically given a mandate by May East herself. So I reached the State Agency for Teachers' Professional Development and told them that I noticed that they haven't had any courses for teachers related to sustainable development, even though it's one of the categories of professional development. And I told them I'd like to contribute with workshops on SDGs and integrative sustainability. So the response went like this: don't you worry about what we offer. We are perfectly capable of offering everything, and we don't need anyone's inputs or proposals. Wow. I tried a bit more, but it was a wall of thick, reinforced concrete. And, it's not the whole agency, the whole country, or the whole ministry, but I had the misfortune to come into a wall of at least one person. And later I was told that there was actually a restricted access market of people who get paid by the state for workshops for teachers, and you don't just get in by calling and proposing something. And I don't know if that's true. It sounds too much. But, I'm telling you, because it's the kind of economy that has to be explained to me so that I get why things do or don't happen. And it might have something to do with your experiences too, in whatever countries you might be in. Now, people also explained to me one other thing, and that is that I shouldn't be saying these things in public. But I'm a slow learner in that respect too, it seems. So anyway, that closed one door for a few years, but it didn't stop me from devoting half of my time to education and sustainability. As a Gaia Education Certified Trainer, I co-founded the Satelit team in Croatia, and we've been doing participatory workshops on sustainability for local communities, citizen associations, youth workers, students, and beyond. And we've been partnering with ministries, foundations, and educational institutions. Now, I'm also part of the international team for Future, and we've organized an Ecovillage Design Education for youth workers from 6 European countries, but we're waiting for COVID restrictions to lift, which would allow us to actually facilitate the training in Germany, hopefully this year. The route to teachers, however, opened quite unexpectedly a year and a half ago. There is a long ongoing project in Croatia, a wonderful project called eSchools, run by a public institution with the mandate of the Ministry of Education. And the aim of that project is to increase the digital competences of teachers and students in primary and high schools. So how does this relate to sustainability? Wait a second and I'll tell you. The project includes equipping schools with ICT equipment, training teachers, and creating teaching materials that support the use of digital technologies in all subjects. However, the national curriculum of Croatia has recently been expanded with the addition of sustainable development as an interdisciplinary topic. This means that teaching materials within the eSchools project suddenly had to be created for the topic of sustainable development. The publishing company that was given that job through public procurement, Profilklet, called me as the key expert for sustainable development, and finally, we were in. So the first key message I have for you tonight is use the system creatively. Now, before we go into Q&A, which will happen towards the end of this session, let's get to two more key messages. The new curriculum that I mentioned introduced sustainable development as an interdisciplinary topic. That means that it is not a separate subject and it does not have a specific slot in the schedule. So as a teacher, you're supposed to achieve the predefined outcomes of the curriculum by teaching your subject. How on earth do you do that? That's what many teachers ask. Furthermore, the curriculum, thankfully, goes beyond the usual misconception that sustainability is just ecology, or that sustainability in schools is just a school garden and recycling. It is structured in 3 domains in the curriculum: connections, well-being, and action. So the outcomes are actually very broad, which is bound to seem abstract and vague to teachers who don't receive support and training, which is exactly where we are stepping in with this project. It's in fact excellent that sustainable development isn't taught as a separate subject, because it isn't a separate subject. It's relevant for all aspects of human life and therefore connected to all subjects. Now, this connection has to be realized in the classroom and outside of it. Otherwise, the whole topic will just slip between the teaching and the awareness of students, like sand between fingers in this photo. So our task in this project was to create teaching scenarios that use this opportunity. And that begs the question, what is a teaching scenario? Or at least, what is it in this project? Here is an example of a teaching scenario. It's called, "What can fit into my street?" It's a 5th grade scenario dealing with discerning personal well-being from general well-being, which is actually an outcome specified in the curriculum. So the scenario does so by getting to know one's street and designing one's ideal street along with events in it. So in the music class, students plan a street festival whose program is adapted to various demographic groups. In the maths class, students use geometric shapes to show the floor plan of a green street. In the German class, they go through a participatory process of designing their street, while in the geography class, they map and critically think about the existing uses in their street. Finally, in the visual arts class, they make an upcycled model of the transformed street. Here is another example. "Do you have to have a house and a car?" is a scenario for the 11th and 12th grade, dealing with critical thinking about the links between lifestyle and environment and people, which is an outcome specified in the curriculum. So in maths, students calculate the optimal position and number of photovoltaic panels for a co-housing. In German, they explore sustainable dwelling options for university students, which they will soon become, such as co-housing, co-living, and tiny houses. In visual arts, they use the example of the Versailles Castle to assess the difference between real and perceived needs. And in 2 geography activities, the students critically approach options for sustainable mobility, smart cities, and off-grid communities. So the trick is here. Each of the activities in the scenario simultaneously satisfies an outcome in the subject curriculum and the outcome in the curriculum of sustainable development. So in that way, we are directing the subjects towards sustainability without giving too much extra work to the teacher. There are 50 such scenarios for sustainable development in this project, with 5 activities in each of them, which is 250 activities altogether. And all of them will be available online, open source, as a tool and inspiration for all Croatian teachers, and they will cover grades from the 5th to the 12th. They will, of course, contain digital interactive elements, which will increase the competences of students and teachers for using ICT. But this is not just, some fashion of the 21st century or a thing that we did merely to satisfy the formal requirements of this e-schools project that we are a part of. We have created videos and interactive videos, galleries and interactive galleries, quizzes of various didactic types and more. And these are all custom learning materials that support these specific teaching scenarios and their specific activities, which means that they're not just presenting sustainability in general. They are helping teachers apply these specific activities in their teaching. And most importantly, they are meant to be used by students themselves, sparking their curiosity, allowing them to explore and learn in the classroom and beyond the classroom in interactive ways that go beyond reading and clicking on hyperlinks. Now, some of the activities in the scenarios are extracurricular, which has been the predominant form of addressing sustainability in Croatian schools, like a school garden. But the reason why we're not basing the scenarios on extracurricular activities alone is that global sustainable changes will require more than sustainability experts. We will need future citizens of all profiles and experts of all professions to act sustainably within their own jobs and in collaboration with each other. And we want to educate and support such an approach from childhood. Sustainable development scenarios we made comprise activities from almost every single subject taught in primary and high schools in Croatia, and not just the ones that usually come to mind when we think about sustainability. You could have seen that in the two scenarios I already told you about. And this is actually perfectly aligned with the Gaia Education mandala of sustainability, which says that there are 4 dimensions to sustainability: ecological, social, economic, and worldview. Try to tell industrial agriculture corporations to turn to regenerative agriculture practices, or to reframe state policies in line with the fact that economic equality is good for well-being, or try to reform the monetary system in line with the fact that exponential growth isn't possible on a finite planet. And you'll see that ecological improvements call for different social, economic, and cultural practices. The Sustainable Development Goals, too, cover all 4 sustainability dimensions. So when I approached this project, my first task in it, and the project was really, really well structured by both the state agency and the publishing company that got the commission to do it. And my first task in it was to come up with 50 scenario topics so that they would cover all the outcomes specified in the Sustainable Development curriculum. The curriculum was also well written in the sense that it allowed for such a creative and free approach. In this phase, I did give myself 3 more tasks. One was to connect the scenario topics with everyday life, to frame them so that they attract teachers of different subject groups, and finally, to introduce a regenerative approach, not just sustainable, because we first need to actively regenerate nature and societies to repair the damage we've done in order to be able to reach a sustainable state, which is also ever-changing and dynamic. And this brings me to the second key message: go beyond the curriculum. Use it, apply it, and go beyond it. The publishing company I've been working for on this project gathered a pool of incredibly good and enthusiastic teachers who then chose the scenarios in which they wanted to participate, which means that they were intrinsically motivated. And they then got my support in coming up with activities for their subjects that contribute to the scenario as a whole and in writing them out. So each scenario was created by a team, through meetings and through working in shared documents. I consciously paid attention to the entire triangle of good teamwork, namely results, process, and relationships. And the authors shaped the activities according to their own interests and got my support in making them creative and making sure that they were in line with contemporary pedagogics. So we made sure in the process we gave each other feedback both ways. Yes. So back in this slide, repeating it for the third time, brings us to the third key message. Okay, so make the process itself transformational. And I would love to hear later in your comments any thoughts that you might have about the message from the universe that we are getting about transformational processes, considering the intrusion that we just had. Now, that actually gives me a perfect way to ask the question of why is transformation important? Now, we are stuck. We are stuck, and the local and global changes that we need are big. And they're personal and they're social, and they're related to everyday life, to the way we communicate with each other, to the way we do business with each other, to all levels of politics, but also to how we perceive ourselves. What is in our minds? What is in our hearts? We might be the only biological beings aware that we are biological beings, and yet we behave as if we weren't. We behave as if we were immune to the consequences of our actions, both on the rest of the life on our planet and on our fellow beings. And worldviews like that create realities, and vice versa. To paraphrase Daniel Christian Wahl, the author of Designing Regenerative Cultures and one of the authors of the Gaia Education curriculum, worldview follows design and design follows worldview. And somewhere in between them, the reality that we call reality and that we take for granted gets created and perpetuated between generations. So my greatest hope for this project is that the teachers who participated in it will have the opportunity to spread their new awareness to their colleagues, those who didn't work on this project, but also, of course, to all of their students, and therefore to the future. Actually, I dream of an educational system which is based not on subjects, but on transdisciplinary topics, such as sustainable development, health, entrepreneurship, active citizenship, learning how to learn, personal and social development. All these are connected topics. All of these were included in this project that I'm describing. So sustainable development have been just a part of it, and I've had marvelous colleagues as key experts doing their work on in these areas and fields. And all these fields hold the potential for humans to do good, for students to explore how to do good, even if first they have to explore how to go crazy a little bit, or find ways and constructive ways to express the trauma, as we have seen a minute ago. So the old school subjects, biology, chemistry, maths, etc., as areas of focused expertise would then come in as needed and as suited to every student's interests to advance these interdisciplinary topics. So to sum up the three key messages on how to include sustainable development in the educational system of your country, it would be: use the system creatively, go beyond the curriculum, and make the process itself transformational. Now, personally, I strive to be constructively subversive in that way, as an architect and as an educator, but it's easier together. And in the meantime, I'm happy to invite you to the second edition of my online short course, Relearning Our Connection with Nature, at the We Learn, We Grow platform. The course will open for new participants soon, so reach out to me if you'd like to get info about it. And in order to be able to reach out to me, here you can take a screenshot of my contacts. Even if you're the hackers, please contact me and tell me why you thought that was a good idea to do. And The Satelit website is in Croatian, I'm warning you, so you'll have to activate your browser translator. Okay, so finally, this is the end of the presentation, but we are going into the Q&A. And before that, a big, big, big thank you to Pedro and Jane and to Gaia Education. And again, not just for having me here today, but also sincerely from my heart for being a brilliant and paradigm-changing influence in the world and in my own life. Thank you. I'm stopping the sharing the screen, and here we are for the Q&A.
Yes, hello everybody. Wow, that was quite an experience, unexpected. And thank you, Val, for just handling that in such a beautiful way that you brought it into the teaching, which is really the essence of participatory facilitation skills. When unexpected things happen, we review and bring them into the teaching. So I just want to pause and notice and thank you for that. So I'd like to invite, are there any questions? I did see one in the chat, but if anyone else has any, and it was Dr. Najit from Bahrain. He was talking about seeing the models. I don't know if this is, anyone knows Dr. Najit, if he's still here, or if this was one of the, I don't know.
I don't know what models would refer to.
Yeah, I just wonder if that was, anyway, so that question came, but let's leave that one. Anything else? Does anyone else have any questions? Just please put, I'm just looking in the box. I have a Miriam.
So is the 250 activities, 50 scenarios, etc. available in non-Croatian?
Yeah, that's good.
Question that I've just seen. Unfortunately, no, this is a Croatian project funded by Croatia for Croatia at the moment. So it'll be open source in Croatian, but it would make me happy if the state agency decided at a certain point that this would be a good thing to share in other languages. I can definitely see that happen if people like you, Attila, ask for that to happen somehow. I don't know the most efficient channel for that. Would it be, I can certainly pass it on, but perhaps one state agency talking to another state agency might be more efficient. And if that is the case, that the curricula are compatible enough and that you see, these teaching scenarios might be applicable in my situation, or even without the curricula, I imagine that there could be some kind of an agreement between the Croatian state agency and another state agency to translate that and to, somehow give the permissions in terms of intellectual property rights, etc., whatever is involved. I have no idea whatsoever about this legal side of things, but a great idea.
Yeah, there was a question from Jerry. Hi, Jerry. It's good to see you here. About what levels of education are you aiming at in particular? Is it elementary, high school, college is the question.
This is from the 5th grade to the 12th grade. So in Croatia, that means the second half of the primary school, which lasts for 8 years, and then the 4 years of the high school. And in particular, that is for the high schools which give general education, not high schools that give education in crafts, etc. Even though I would love to see this kind of an approach applied in crafts high schools and other professional high schools, because it is really, really important to include sustainable thinking and practice in the real life application of different professions.
Pupax raised a question. Could this become part of a Gaia education training? Well, Maybe we can talk about that afterwards, Val. Yeah, that would be great. And then there's some questions about, can you elaborate? This is Anna Maria. Can you elaborate on your visions regarding future curricula in schools and how to combine the interdisciplinary themes with core subjects? You did talk a little bit about this, but maybe Anna Maria would like a little bit more input on that.
Bit, yes. So thanks for that question. It's actually, I would love it. It's my dream for that to happen. So the way I see it, students would go to a school to, explore their interests, to manifest their talents, and to find ways in which they can do that, to live a life of a better quality, and to help other people live a life of a better quality, and to regenerate the planet while doing so. So in order for that to be supported, I think we would primarily need teachers who would support it from the angle of sustainable development, health, personal and social growth, entrepreneurship, learning how to learn and how to handle information, how to communicate, and using the technologies, both the digital ones and the analog ones, that allow us to express ourselves and, do something with the world around us. And I think that would be a highly motivating type of an education where students would soon get to questions and challenges and ideas that would require specialized knowledge. And then that specialized knowledge would plug in to their projects. And that would be kind of the, what we now know as the subject curriculum. But it would be different for each project and therefore almost for each student. So the teachers and professionals and craftspeople, etc., who are specialized in something and can give that kind of training and skills and insights, would then plug in. So we're broadening that beyond the school and into the local community, and with the use of ICT to the whole world. So that's it in a nutshell of a big dream. I hope I explained enough for now.
Thanks, Val. There's quite a lot of other questions. I'm just looking. There's one here. Do you use the SDG targets, which is very outcome focused, as specific goals in the education direction of students? So how do you align this approach you're using with specific targets, when it's sort of, you're using this sort of participatory approach and regenerative approach? Yeah.
The whole approach to creating the scenarios is, in its essence, in its core, embedded into the intention of the SDGs and of the 4-dimension mandala, etc. But we don't have a structure. We use the structure of the curriculum, so we don't have a structure that is, okay, SDG target activity, SDG target scenario, etc. So we are doing it in spirit, but not in a very detailed structure. As for the students and what they learn about the SDGs and about how they are connected with their everyday life and with all the different topics that they're learning about.
And there's another question here. How much are you working together with external actors to motivate students and bring them closer to the practical learning? So what other stakeholders are involved in what you're doing, and how do you motivate the stakeholders and the learners to work well together, I guess, is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Actually, quite a lot of the activities that we developed include that kind of outreach and collaboration. So there is even a whole scenario that we called, how do I translate it? A sustainable activity fair. So the fair would happen at the level of the school, and then the activities are just some of the activities that might happen. So it's 5 activities per scenario, but that there could be 50 things happening during that week in the life of the school. And for example, one of the activities that we wrote is about honey and honeybees, and what kind of honey is created from what kind of flowers, and what do we have on the market that is sold as honey but is not honey. How much do the beekeepers know about this? So what could we give them as additional information, and what could they give us as a life story, as a skill, and as experience from the real world? And they would be a part of the fair. So it's a collaboration between teachers, students, the local community, and the agricultural sector, and all of it contributing also to the outcomes of chemistry as a subject, and using what we have in the curriculum of chemistry to make a change at the level of sustainable development.
And there's another couple of questions I think we've got time for. One is from Mariam, who's posted a couple of things about the relationship between entrepreneurship and regenerative education. How can they go together, or are they not able to align together, or what are your views on that?
Yeah, and entrepreneurship is also, I'm so happy to hear all these questions about things that we could somehow include and to be able to share that we have. Entrepreneurship is actually really important, and we've actually done a few cross topics between the interdisciplinary topic of entrepreneurship and the interdisciplinary topic of sustainable development, because yes, there is a way and a huge importance of entrepreneurship in materializing the sustainability approach in everyday life. And that includes not only learning about what's going on, but it includes students coming up with entrepreneurial ideas, and also learning about skills such as how to fill out a triple-layered business model canvas, for example, which is it's actually a digital interactive content that we developed for them to be able to use that in their planning.
Yeah, and there's another comment from Peter sorry, Peter, if I got your second name wrong. Peter in I think in Austria, because he's saying about working on an Erasmus Plus project shortly, which I think is the Gaia Ed one. I was kind of involved in developing that as well, which is working with youth Europe-wide on sustainability. So what kinds of experience do you have on these sorts of Erasmus youth projects, and how could you reach out with other similar projects? Is there any way we can further and work together on that?
Is that a question for Peter or for me?
No, I'm asking you.
Okay.
Peter has put, sorry, that wasn't very clear. Peter has put the comment in, and I'm just because I know the comment, the project Peter's referring to. It's one we've just had approved from with Gaia Ed's one of the partners, and it's working with youth in sustainability. And I think there's quite a lot of these Erasmus partnerships, youth and sustainability. So I'm just wondering how we can link, how we can network, and how we can make this something bigger together. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love it. First of all, big regards to Peter Gringinger, who was both in my TOT as a co-participant and also in the Gaia Education Design Studio in the GEDS that we did together. And I'm actually very keen to continue working with teachers and youth workers. And in particular, I think, what we've done here is just a start in the sense that this kind of a participatory way of approaching one's own subject through the lens of sustainable development can be and has to be done through workshops with teachers, so that more teachers get on board. I've had teachers really tell me, Veljko, you've opened my eyes to sustainability in the sense that I really only ever thought it was ecology. But now I see that this is so much more, and the ecological things will not happen without that, so much more part. And also in the process, I've had a psychology teacher tell me, wow, during these meetings, I realized that it really pays off to pay attention to human relations during teamwork. So these are crucial things, and these are wonderful teachers, wonderful authors, and they have this inner, they have the drive, they have the wish to make that step. So any projects that would go in that direction to, gather teachers who might be alone in their schools with that drive, to get them to meet together, not only with teachers, but also with other youth workers, and to integrate sustainability into what they are doing in their everyday vocations. Absolutely, I'm on board. And it's actually a part of the concept of the EDE that I mentioned that we are doing for youth workers, that we'll hopefully be doing if COVID allows this year in Germany.
Yeah, thank you. And there's a question from Fazana. I'm not sure where Fazana Bashir is from. She's asking about the educational model in Croatia. Did it have the capacity to include transformative education that will give power and agency to students? I mean, you spoke a little bit about this, but maybe you can. And she was asking, did you face structural and institutional cultural resistance with such a model? And again, you touched a little bit on that, but maybe you could just give a little bit more context to that. Because I think quite a few of the participants come from countries where there would be quite a lot of resistance. Mm-hmm. So it's good to share and learn on those topics.
Yeah. So as I told you in the beginning, there was that wall I hit, and it was to shock you a little bit when I shared about it, because it was a shock to me. I never thought that I would hit that wall with so many good intentions of mine, but I did. And that was a kind of a structural problem, but not really a structural, more of maybe a cultural problem. And however, there have been so many good things that happened after that, it's one door might be closed, or there might be a wall behind that door, but keep trying in different ways. And the model so far has been done with teachers who have been interested and intrinsically motivated to do it. So it's easy when it's like that, well, it's not easy, but it's easier. So the trick will be, since teachers have to somehow integrate sustainable development into what they're doing, even if they're not sustainable development experts, the trick will be then to support them in getting interested. Now, they will have to do that work, getting interested, somehow finding the motivation, but we cannot just say, okay, it's up to them totally, because we can give the support, and hopefully this will spread. It's a complex system, and this will spread in mysterious ways, which means, there are all these activities online, and there are all these teachers who have gone through this process now, who can spark the interest of their colleagues. And ultimately, it comes down to the teacher, because the curriculum is great. We haven't really had any problems with curricula in Croatia for a long time. It's the support that the state is or is not giving to teachers to do things differently, to imagine things differently, but also to get the logistics. I mean, if people are so stressed by getting just the basic equipment in their schools, and often they are, and if they're stressed because their salaries are low, and often they are, then it takes a lot to go that extra step and create transformative learning experiences for your students. So it's a lot of factors, and this project is not a solution for the whole problem or the whole situation of education in Croatia. But if everyone is doing their part from all sorts of different angles, my faith is that in the complex system of our society, this will create even unpredictably good results.
Okay, so thank you, Val. I'm just think we've covered most of the questions. I just wonder, is there anything else you'd like to say to close the session? You know, some final last words?
So
You've got a
just
few minutes left. Yeah.
quickly, is that I'm very, very grateful for the questions, and all of them, we didn't give them justice, really. So my hope is really that we will get in touch with each other, and that we will have the opportunity to turn these questions into ideas and into opportunities for doing some great work. And as Pupak said, if this could also be a thing that Gaia Education is interested in pursuing, absolutely, let's create synergies wherever we can. It's been an honor to be here with so many people and to try to respond to so many interesting questions. Thank you so much, everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much, Val. It's really been, this is the first time I've been doing the host of these webinars, so it's new for me, and it was quite a baptism of fire for both of us, I think. But thank you for just riding it so beautifully, you know, this disruption. And I think, you know, it's amazing that we can use these opportunities for our learning. I think that's really, really important. And I hope that everyone will also sign up to our social media so we can continue some of these discussions, available hopefully on the website. And the other resources we've got, that I think there's a special offer on this bundle of books, which is on our website, if any of you are interested in more resources from Gaia. And then there's another course coming up on ecosystem restoration design, which is starting in, registration is open until February. And this is a really interesting course if any of you are interested in having a look at that, or just get in touch with some of us in the team. I think Saskia's on the call. She can help you with any questions on that as well. So thanks, everyone. And Val, thank you. It's so good to connect with you again. And let's keep this connection open, and let's hope that we all have lots of more discussion on this amazing topic. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks.